What is going on, everybody? The first week of NFL action is in the books, and that means it is time for our first weekly NFL Power Rankings video here. Gonna do my best, just lay out my honest opinions of how I feel about these teams right now. Week one is always tough, a lot of crazy stuff happening, tough to sort through what was randomness, what matters, trying to balance the reactions and overreactions that we always see from the first week of the season. So gonna stick with who I feel the best teams are right now heading into week two, and let's get into it. Please do hit that like button down below, really helps me out. Starting with nobody other than the Jacksonville Jaguars, falling down 2 spots to take the worst spot in the NFL. And you know, this was really the worst case scenario for Jags fans, was Urban Meyer, who was definitely a hiring that myself and many people out there had their questions about if that was the right move. And this team comes out ill-prepared, didn't really know what they wanted to do, and the defense as bad as ever. So it's still early. You know, you can't write this team off, and Trevor Lawrence did show the physical talent of why he was the number 1 overall pick, but he himself was not great. The offense has to figure out who they want to be on that side of the ball, and the defense just has everything to figure out. And that does leave the Houston Texans at number 31, who were victorious in that game. I don't know if they're going to be blowing teams out the rest of the season. I think it's pretty easy to say that's unlikely, but it was really fun to see Tyrod Taylor out there kind of dealing and playing like a new man. I like how they're kind of implementing their version of the Ravens offense with David Culley coming over from Baltimore. The defense was fired up. This is a really veteran team with kind of a chip on their shoulders. So definitely an underdog story worth cheering for. We'll see where it goes, but probably not expecting a lot there. And then the Detroit Lions at number 30, and this was really the epitome of the Dan Campbell opening press conference that got so much coverage. You know, boy, oh boy, did this team get knocked down. They were down big against the Niners, but they fought back, they got back up, and they bit off some kneecaps, and just as luck would have it, unfortunately that kneecap was Jason Verrett's, shocker, but they fought back and showed some resiliency. This team showed all of the lack of talent that we're worried about with the Lions team, but they showed that grit. They got to go to Lambeau next week. And then we're going to have a tier gap up as we talk about the New York Jets at number 29. I think this next tier, while really not serious playoff teams, have a little bit more of a chance of being in that relevant conversation than those 3 teams we just did. But the Jets, you know, they showed some good things. Zach Wilson, I thought, looked really comfortable in his rookie debut, despite really running for his life behind an offensive line that now will not have Mekhi Becton for the next 6 weeks. Definitely worried about that, but his connection with Corey Davis looks really promising. The D-line for the Jets is a dominant strength, even without Carl Lawson out there. But secondary an issue, an offensive line an issue. This team is going to struggle to win games. You just hope that, you know, they can keep Zach Wilson healthy, he continues to grow, and they can build into next year. The Atlanta Falcons at number 28. The defense looked as bad as advertised, but really worried about this offense not having more success than they did. I think they'll get back to the lab and the offense gets a little better here, but the Falcons just not looking like a very good football team at this point in time. The New York Giants at number 27. Talk about not very good football teams. You know, this team has some scattered talent, but what do they do well other than playing, I guess, disciplined, tough, balanced defense? You know, Daniel Jones just continues to really not be it. Like, he's fine, but this team passed on Justin Fields to trade down in the draft. I said that there's a good possibility that they really regret that, and seems to be heading in that direction. This team just has no identity offensively. They can't get Saquon Barkley going after they spent the 2nd overall pick on him. It's just tough for the Giants. And then the Eagles are going to climb and no longer be the worst team in the NFC East. Things were definitely trending up for the Eagles as they really rounded out an excellent offseason with a couple nice moves. Things like signing Steven Nelson clearly boded well for this defense that looked like a potential top 10 unit. And the biggest thing about the Eagles is heading into the year, it was like, is this team ever going to stay healthy, especially on the offensive and defensive line? And they are. They're very healthy. And when this offensive line is healthy, it's one of the best in the league. They're going to have a great run game. Devontae Smith looks great. And most of all, Jalen Hurts really played well in this game. His growth has been so fun to watch. The Eagles, a bit of a Cinderella story themselves. Do not count them out of the picture in the NFC East. Big week 1 for the Eagles. The Chicago Bears dropping down 4 spots. I expected them to lose to the Rams, and I still walked away underwhelmed. I actually thought Dalton did his thing, got rid of the ball quickly and kind of did what he could offensively, but the offensive line wreck is just as bad as you could have imagined. Their injuries are already piling up there. But the biggest surprise really is the defense and the secondary getting lost and blowing coverages. They're going to have to fix a lot of stuff back there, and if that defense is a non-elite group, then this is where the Chicago Bears belong, because they really do have one of the worst offenses in the NFL. Then the Carolina Panthers, an impressive start. They weren't going against the most explosive offense, but this defense really looks like that's a young group that's continuing to grow week by week. They're very well coached. They play fast, and they have a ton of talent. Shaq Thompson with a huge week at linebacker this week. And if he rounds out that middle level with that young secondary, Brian Burns up front, who had a good start to his Defensive Rookie of the Year campaign, that many are expecting him to take that jump to be that caliber player. This defense is really worth talking about. Offensively, Sam Darnold, it was big for him just to, be comfortable and have a full 60-minute game where he looked like a good NFL quarterback, and that's really what we saw. It wasn't perfect. To expect him to come out and, just be a great quarterback week 1 wasn't going to happen, but that was about as good as you could draw up for the Panthers. So things definitely trending up for them. Excited to see their growth as this season continues. Then the Cincinnati Bengals at 23. Again, just getting Joe Burrow out there healthy, playing well, showing that he is one of the smartest, best processing quarterbacks in the league, despite being just a second-year player. Able to connect on some deep balls with Jamar Chase coming in this week. Offensive line still not great, but the defense did their job, and they come through with a tough win in overtime against the Vikings, even if it was on a potentially questionable fumble call. But still, big first week for the Bengals. Now into our next tier, where the Denver Broncos are going to stay put at 22, though it was a good first week for them. Von Miller looking healthy is a huge deal for this defense. That was really a big question mark for me. And if you're getting that Von Miller every week, that's going to help elevate this defensive line, help a guy like Draymond Jones continue to emerge as this secondary becomes more familiar with themselves, and then you can start building up towards maybe having the best defense in the NFL. And if Teddy Bridgewater's playing like that every week with the best defense in the NFL on the other side of the ball, this team is going to ascend and exceed this 22nd ranking very quickly. But let's see it another week against not Daniel Jones and that offensive line. And then at number 21, the Las Vegas Raiders. And, we just saw them put on a show here Monday night and came back and beat the Ravens. And if you wanted that prove me wrong redemption arc for the Las Vegas Raiders this year, that was a great start, as they're going to climb up 5 spots here in week 1. I will give credit where credit is due. The defense, we'll see. I'm still worried about that group. I thought the pass rush, though, showed some nice things. We'll have to continue to monitor that defense. That is my biggest worry for this Raiders team. But the offense, the offensive line, I'm going to need some more time to revisit this game. It did just happen. But really with Derek Carr, this is the big deal here. He looked in another year in this system, putting the confidence in guys like Ruggs and Bryan Edwards, who was my number 2 breakout candidate for this season. That's off to a great start. Just launching the ball downfield when it was right, and that's big for this offense. I thought that potentially with that offensive line getting worse, it might accentuate some of Derek Carr's flaws, and it really brought out a different version than we've seen from Derek Carr, and it was really impressive to see him play quarterback at that high of a level. He's going to have to continue to play like that throughout the season to keep this Raiders team alive, just as we saw in that game tonight. But a big week for the Las Vegas Raiders, getting some respect here, climbing up 5 spots. And then another team at number 20 that their fans are just not happy with me, and I said in the intro, I'm going to be honest about what I saw, and I'm still wildly unimpressed by the Miami Dolphins, who come in at number 20. They're going to stay put, they won the way that they won games last year. And I think it's very legitimate to ask how sustainable it is scraping out 2-point victories when your offense looks like garbage, relying on, forcing 2 fumbles. History would tell you that that's just not a sustainable way to win. And I'm going to stand by that. This offensive game plan was basically the equivalent of what you see from a team that goes into a week with a backup quarterback. And for that to be their week 1 game plan with Tua Tagovailoa in a big second year, who physically speaking looks like a backup and mentally speaking, just isn't pushing the ball downfield and still looks like a backup. I'm going to get criticized from Dolphins fans. They're going to call me a hater, but there's very few takes that I'm more confident in than saying that Tua just is not a good NFL quarterback. You look at all of these young guys coming into the league. You see it the way guys like Baker and Kyler and Herbert and all these guys, even a Mac Jones on the other side of the ball playing. I just don't know how you can settle for what Tua has shown to this point. Obviously has a whole season to prove that wrong, but I just don't see it happening, especially with this offensive line. So I'm sorry to be so negative after a win, but the Dolphins got severely outplayed in this game, and they're very lucky to escape with a victory there. We'll see if they continue to prove me wrong, I suppose, but no apology form being sent out here for this one. I think the Dolphins really escaped what was mostly an ugly game, though the defense is good. I've never said anything otherwise. But then the Washington football team at number 19. So Fitzpatrick's going to get hurt, but I really didn't think there was much of a drop-off, if any, with Heineke coming in, and it's actually possible that Heineke was an upgrade for that offense. But overall, it's not going to be a very good offense. But this defense did live up to the hype. Down the stretch, Herbert just was making unbelievable throws that just nobody could defend. But for the most part, this team was really sound defensively, and you're going to have to play 60 minutes of really good, sound football to beat them. I just don't know how much explosiveness they really have to beat really good teams. And then the Colts at 18, I put the little shrug in there because they were kind of 11th, and then they were 19th because of the Wentz injury, the Quentin Nelson deal. Tough to kind of say exactly where they came in because these rankings are from my deep dive series. But regardless, I see them at 18 at this point in time. They have to discover what they want to be offensively. They need a little bit more juice at that wide receiver position. And defensively, it's kind of the same as last year. Like, they're really tough. They're opportunistic. They're going to beat you up front, but they just don't have like an elite pass rush. They don't have this amazing secondary. So I think they could really use a better offense to support them. And Wentz is still kind of getting acclimated here. That was my big thing with that injury, was he was going to miss a lot of practice time and kind of be behind the 8 ball a little bit. So, I'm not selling on the Colts, but obviously an underwhelming start to their 2021 season. But the Vikings at 17, I mentioned in my predictions show last week that I was really souring on the Vikings. So I ranked 11th. The Colts were actually 12th, by the way. I screwed that up. But the Vikings started at 11, but the Irv Smith injury I thought did take an aspect away from that offense. And the whole thing that Darrisaw is just not hitting the ground running here, also an issue there with that offensive line. And it did definitely hurt this offense. They still have some explosiveness there, but defensively the secondary is in shambles at the moment. So I'm losing steam on this Vikings team. They're going to have to recapture some momentum, and they're a team that's kind of stuck in a little bit of purgatory action right now, and they're going to have to turn this thing around quickly. But their season's far from done as well. I think this defense can certainly bounce back, and they had a lot of penalties and a rough end to that game as well. I'm not sure that was a fumble that basically cost them the game. And then we got the Dallas Cowboys at 16. All right, you got my attention. Dak came out slinging the ball around, looked really good. Defensively, they ran into a buzzsaw, but not much of a pass rush. The secondary is certainly an issue there. They kind of looked like the team we were projecting, but it was good to see them come out and kind of go head-to-head with the Bucs. Just a couple plays away from really winning that game. Then the Tennessee Titans, as we take a tier gap up into teams that I would say are certainly teams with very legitimate playoff expectations. So the Tennessee Titans are going to drop down 3 spots. Hard not to when you come out and look like that. It's always interesting to me We do that full summer deep dive series, and we spend so much time of saying, oh, if this goes right, you'll get this outcome. If this goes wrong and this goes wrong, you'll get a low-end outcome. Well, in week one, it certainly looked like a lot of the question marks for this Titans team were trending towards worst case scenario, especially with that defense, all those moving parts. Bringing in Julio Jones, what was that going to look like? Losing the offensive coordinator, what was that going to look like? So definitely a bad start for the Tennessee Titans. Still a ton of superstar talent on that team, and not going to write them off after week one, but definitely some concerns after week one there. Number 14, the New England Patriots. They are going to drop down 4. They lost to the Dolphins. But this is much more about really everybody else. These next 4 teams that are going to jump them just looked a lot better and proved a lot more. Whereas the Patriots did kind of look like I expected. The 2 fumbles, certainly not what I expected, but I thought Mac Jones looked really cool and comfortable. The defense looked really good, even without Stephon Gilmore. The Patriots are going to be just fine, and I'm still not going to write them off for the AFC East. Then the Pittsburgh Steelers at 13, climbing up 3 spots here after upsetting the Buffalo Bills. And this was kind of the opposite of the Vikings, where heading into the season, I was definitely trending up on them a little bit. I loved the Melvin Ingram signing that happened after my deep dive on this team. And man, did that look like a great move, as this pass rush looks primed to be the best in the NFL. Cam Hayward was incredible in this game, beating up on that interior offensive line. TJ Watt was incredible. The fact that you have a guy like Melvin Ingram to be your 4th guy to just move around and make a guy like Josh Allen uncomfortable, that is such an asset for this team, and it's going to allow them to stay in games. And with Big Ben just kind of out there slinging the ball around, it doesn't look pretty, but with all these playmakers, just as we saw, you're going to get Chase Claypool making an amazing catch. You're going to get Deontay Johnson making, circus catches in the end zone. You're going to get Najee Harris breaking off big runs. They have enough playmakers that when the defense just keeps them alive, that's kind of a formula that can really work here. So Pittsburgh Steelers definitely trending up. Still worried about the offense. If they can really hang with teams like the Chiefs or the Bills on a good day, but definitely trending up for the Steelers. And then talk about trending up, the New Orleans Saints. I got some flack for ranking them 13th, but it's just a reminder that coach and culture, it's not everything in the NFL, but it's pretty damn close. And Sean Payton is one of the best. This culture is one of the best. The leadership on this team, and they came out and just punched the Packers in the mouth, who looked like they were expecting to walk over this team. And it also goes a lot towards player development, and that's what we saw with Jameis Winston, who looked like a new man, avoiding those back-breaking mistakes, making good decisions with the football. And all of a sudden, the Saints, who looked like they were going to have to delete their team with negative $90 million in cap space, are apparently just swimming in cap space again. Don't ask me how. Trading for veterans and extending Marshawn Lattimore forever. The Saints don't seem to be going anywhere, and they are definitely one of the more fascinating teams in the NFL all of a sudden. Then the Chargers at number 11. Talk about fascinating. This was definitely a polarizing team heading into the year. New coach, an organization that has just been kind of shooting themselves in the foot for a while. But this was really the best case scenario for the Chargers as far as what this team looked like. The offense really hitting the ground running. Just the chemistry to me between Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, and the play caller here, Joe Lombardi, coming in from New Orleans. This offense is going to be really tough to stop, especially when the offensive line is playing well against a really good pass rush. And defensively, Derwin James, man, I think he was the highest graded player per PFF just on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL. Asante Samuel looked great. Joey Bosa playing like a monster. So this is a Chargers team with a ton of talent. We know that. And if they're putting things together like this, this isn't just a playoff contender. It could be more than that. Then we get the Arizona Cardinals climbing up 5 spots. Another team that was kind of the opposite of the team they were playing, where this looked like a best case outcome already for the Cardinals. You have the offense getting a little bit more creative, getting a little bit more juice from those bubble screens, the guy like Rondale Moore, and Kyler Murray just playing out of his mind. I mean, that was a great start for the Kyler Murray MVP campaign, if you're cheering for that. And then the defense, which was a major question for the Cardinals, what this group was going to look like. J.J. Watt playing like a monster. Chandler Jones, the story of the week, 5 sacks, sprinkling dollar bills up to the front office saying, pay me, rightfully so, looking like a monster. So the pass rush waking up. And then a guy like Byron Murphy in the secondary seeming to take a step up here in year 3 with a good start, covering Julio Jones and looking really good. Isaiah Simmons looking good. So the Cardinals and Chargers right there with the most interesting teams in the league and an incredible upside if things continue to click into place for those guys. And then the Ravens, another kind of worst case start to their season with the injuries just piling up and up and up. They're going to have a long road to kind of bounce back from this in this division and, get back on track. I think they very well can and will. It's the Baltimore Ravens, and we just talked about coach and culture with the Saints, and that applies to the Ravens. But a big part of the -3 here is Marcus Peters getting injured. The secondary very clearly kind of struggling against the Raiders there. Jimmy Smith is out right now as well. All the running backs going down. The running game just did not look the same. So a lot of work for the Ravens to do. They are just not really a top echelon team, but also certainly not a team worth overreacting as well over a, week 1 overtime loss. Then we've got the San Francisco 49ers simply dropping down here because of injuries. You lose Raheem Mostert, not so much a big deal with Elijah Mitchell looking the way he did, but more importantly, Jason Verrett going down with the ACL injury was by far their best cornerback. So when you're not going against the Detroit Lions, who even then really attacked this secondary in the second half there, the Lions have the worst receiving core in the NFL. So what happens when they run into a real receiving core? It's definitely a question mark, especially with Verrett out there. But the offense wheeling and dealing, and I still believe in the Niners this year. Seattle Seahawks climbing up 2 spots was just so good to see the Shane Waldron offense kind of look like we all hoped and imagined that it would. Russell Wilson, so perfect for a play-action heavy offense where he can get some clean pockets with play action and just launch the ball downfield. His deep ball is the most beautiful thing in the NFL, and it was on full display week 1 against the Colts. And then the Cleveland Browns going to climb up 2 spots as well. Also good to see them come out and kind of live up to the hype, taking it to the Chiefs. Yes, they kind of fell apart in the last 2 minutes of the game, and you got to play 60 great minutes of football to beat the Chiefs, and we were reminded that this week. But no Odell Beckham this week either. Kind of a surprising pull early. I thought he was going to be good to go, and just out of nowhere he wasn't playing. So definitely something that should get that offense even another kick as if they needed it. But Myles Garrett looking like Defensive Player of the Year, and a close Week 1 loss in Kansas City, far from anything to scoff at. They're gonna go up 2 spots here for the Cleveland Browns. Buffalo Bills are gonna stay put at number 5. I didn't think they looked like that bad. Josh Allen did spray some throws that honestly probably ultimately cost them this game, just left some points on the board there. You hope that that's not Josh Allen's accuracy issues of years past propping back up. You hope it's just a bad game. So that's obviously something to monitor there, but the game just kind of got away from them in the second half, and I'm not that worried about the Buffalo Bills. It was a really tough Steelers defense. The block punt for a touchdown really hurt this team. That's something you don't expect to happen every week. So not going to panic about the Bills here. And, I'm not going to panic about the Packers either, who come in at number 4, but definitely some apologizing to do, and they deserve to come down here. I thought this defense was really going to hit the ground running. They have so much talent, and it was really sad to see them come out with maybe the worst defensive performance of the week. Just so flat. The Saints became the first team since 2000 to allow back-to-back 15-play touchdown drives. Aaron Rodgers had 7 pass attempts by the 2-minute warning. So just an excellent game plan by the Saints, going for it on 4th down, just keeping Rodgers off the field and really attacking the underneath weaknesses on this Packers defense. Now, they'll get back to the lab, and offensively, I'm certainly not going to panic and worry about the Packers at this point. But defensively, you got to sit there and say, like, come on. Like, how can this team year after year after year underwhelm defensively? And that's a worry. So I thought that this defense was going to be notably better than the Chiefs. It certainly is not. That's why I ranked them a little bit higher than the Chiefs. And I will admit that was a bad prediction there. So dropping the Packers back down to earth a little bit there, dropping actually out of that top tier and down 2 spots. Then the LA Rams going to climb up 1 spot. Another deal where we thought Stafford was going to look great here for the Rams, but man, was it good to see it, in front of our faces. And we saw it Sunday night. Just the deep balls, having time to throw, guys screaming wide open, getting defensive support, having a run game to support him. It's just something we've never seen, the whole picture, and a complete team like that with a good coach supporting Matthew Stafford. And for the guys that had MVP hype coming into the year, Stafford and Kyler Murray especially, really good starts for those 2 guys. And then we do have a tier gap up into the top 2 with our 2 Super Bowl teams from last year. The Chiefs just, man, that offense, very quickly reminding myself just how much better that offense is than anybody. The play to Tyreek Hill, just a great reminder that they can come back from a 2-score deficit just in the flip of a switch. And, I'm still kind of worried about the offensive line a little bit. Orlando Brown, yes, it was Myles Garrett, but I said that's a potential worry, is the offensive line. And I didn't think they were all that special in this game. And defensively, they have a little bit to clean up. But for the most part, as long as you got Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and Andy Reid, that's just one of the most elite combinations of talent and coaching ever. I don't know. So the Chiefs climbing back up into that top tier, deservedly so. Definitely a better team than the Packers. I'll apologize for ranking them, kind of going out on a limb there, and that was clearly wrong. And then the Bucs at number 1, no change there. Roster's loaded. Brady looks incredible. Brady looks better than ever, which is just stupid. Antonio Brown looks like he's in his prime. They did get an injury in the secondary, though, but it seems they avoided a season-ending one there for Sean Murphy-Bunting. The secondary and the offensive line are like the 2 spots that they can't really have any injuries. So we'll see how well Ross Cockrell can hold up there, but you're really being nitpicky just to talk about the Bucs having a single weakness. So an impressive Week 1 performance. And that's going to do it for the Week 2 Power Rankings. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your comments and power rankings down below. Lastly, do please hit that like button if you enjoyed, and make sure you subscribe for more football content as the season goes on. We'll be here Wednesday at 3:30 Central, 4:30 Eastern for the Fully Inflated Football Podcast with a recap on every game and the mailbag. And until then, thank you for watching, and we'll see you later. Peace.